The plasma bolt missed Danny Carter's head by inches, scorching the metal wall behind him. He rolled behind a cargo container as 3 more shots tore through the air where he'd been standing. The Krathian war cruiser shuddered from another impact, throwing him against the bulkhead. "Human, surrender now," the voice boomed through his translator. "Your ship is crippled. Your crew is dead. You have nowhere to run?" Danny checked his weapon's charge. 15%. Not good. He'd been fighting his way through this alien warship for 2 hours, ever since his scout vessel got torn apart by their ambush. The rest of his team hadn't made it past the first corridor. Heavy footsteps echoed closer. Danny risked a glance around the container. The Krathian warrior stood 7 feet tall, covered head to toe in black armor that seemed to absorb light itself. The alien's weapon hummed with deadly energy, sweeping the cargo bay methodically. "I can hear your breathing, human," the warrior said. "Your species is weak, fragile. Why do you persist in this futile resistance?" Danny's mind raced. He'd studied the Krathians during his military training. They were the galaxy's most feared warriors, conquering 17 star systems in the past decade. Their armor was supposed to be impenetrable, powered by technology humanity couldn't begin to understand. Every species that faced them either surrendered or died. "Come out and face your end with dignity," the warrior continued, moving between the containers with practiced ease. Danny spotted a maintenance shaft above, just barely within reach if he timed it right. But he'd have to cross 10 feet of open space. The Krathian would cut him down before he made it halfway. The warrior stepped closer, its armored boots clanging against the deck plates. "You intrigue me, human. Most of your kind begged for mercy by now. But you keep fighting. Tell me, what drives such foolish courage?" "Stubbornness," Danny called back. "Buying time while he calculated angles. We're really good at not knowing when to quit." "A waste." The warrior's voice carried something that might have been amusement. "I have fought across 100 worlds. I have never been defeated in single combat. Your weapon cannot penetrate my armor. Your strength is nothing compared to mine. Yet here you crouch, pretending you have a chance." The Krathian moved to the next row of containers. Danny tensed, ready to make his move. "Curious, human," the warrior said, stopping suddenly. "Are you curious about what lies beneath my armor? About the warrior who wears it?" Danny paused, his hand on a nearby cable. That was an odd question. In all the intelligence briefings, the Krathians never talked during combat. They just killed. "Actually," Danny said slowly, "yeah, I am curious." The Krathian's weapon lowered slightly. For a long moment, the cargo bay fell silent, except for the distant sounds of the dying ship. Then the warrior reached up with one armored hand and pressed something at the neck seal. A hiss of pressurized air filled the space. The helmet came off. Danny's breath caught in his throat. The face beneath the armor was delicate, almost fragile-looking. Soft features, large eyes that shifted through colors he couldn't name, and skin that seemed to shimmer like oil on water. The Krathian looked nothing like the monstrous warriors humanity had imagined. "You look surprised, human," the warrior said, and now Danny could hear the voice without the helmet's distortion. It was higher, almost musical. "I expected something different," Danny admitted, slowly standing up from behind the container, his weapon still in hand but pointed down. "Everyone does. The Krathians set the helmet on a nearby crate. We are not the monsters you imagine. We are simply very good at war. The armor makes us strong. The armor makes us feared. But beneath it, we are as vulnerable as any species in the galaxy." "Then why show me?" Danny asked, genuinely confused. "You're winning. I am about to die. What difference does it make?" The warrior's eyes fixed on him, cycling through shades of blue and green. "Because you asked. Because in 2 hours of hunting you through my ship, you have killed 16 of my soldiers. You have sabotaged our weapons array and our communication systems. You have done what an entire battalion of Scolari troops could not accomplish. And when I offered you a chance to see past the myth of the Krathian warrior, you said yes instead of shooting." Danny looked down at his weapon, then back at the alien. "So what happens now? Now you tell me your name, human." "You have earned that much respect. Danny Carter. Lieutenant, 3rd Reconnaissance Fleet. I am Vexthara, war leader of the 7th Talon." The Krathian moved closer, still without the helmet. "Tell me, Danny Carter, how does a human survive against Krathian warriors? Your species has been in space for less than a century. You have no armor like ours, no weapons that match ours, yet you fight like you were born to it." Danny's grip tightened on his weapon. This felt like a trap, but something in Vexthara's voice seemed genuinely curious. "We improvise, we adapt, and we really, really hate losing." "Improvise," Vexthar repeated, as if testing the word. "Yes, I have noticed this. You use the environment as a weapon. You think in ways we do not expect. When we breach a door, you are not where you should be. When we pursue, you turn and attack from angles we did not anticipate." The ship lurched again, harder this time. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in red. "Your reinforcements are destroying my vessel," Vexthara said calmly. "My fleet withdrew when you damaged our communications. They believe this ship lost. I estimate we have perhaps 20 minutes before hull integrity fails." "Then I guess we're both dead," Danny said. "Perhaps." Vexthara picked up the helmet, turning it over in slender hands. "Or perhaps you tell me how a lone human infiltrated a Krathian war cruiser, how you bypass security systems that have stopped every other species, how you survived this long." Danny laughed, a harsh sound in the dying ship. "You want me to give away Earth's military secrets while we're about to die? That's bold." "I want to understand," Vexthara said, and something in those shifting eyes made Danny believe it. "The Krathian Empire has conquered 17 systems. We have faced 53 different species in combat. All of them fell within months. But humans? You lose every major engagement. Your fleets are scattered. Your colonies burn. Yet somehow, impossibly, you keep fighting. More than that, you learn. Every battle, you fight better, smarter. Yesterday, human tactics failed against our formations. Today, they succeed." "How?" Danny considered the question. The ship groaned around them, metal shrieking as something gave way deep in the structure. "Because we share everything," he said finally. "Every battle, every loss, every tiny victory gets recorded and transmitted. Every soldier who dies, their tactical data gets analyzed. We don't hide our failures, we study them. We don't worship our heroes. We examine what made them successful and teach it to everyone else." Vexthara's eyes went still, fixed at a deep purple color. "You weaponize your defeats." "Yeah, I guess we do." Danny moved toward the maintenance shaft he'd spotted earlier. The ship listed to one side, and he grabbed onto a support beam. "Look, this has been enlightening, but I'd like to not die today. There's an escape pod section 2 decks down. If we move fast, we might make it." "Why would you help me?" Danny looked back at the alien warrior, at the fragile being beneath the fearsome armor. "Because you showed me your face, and because maybe, just maybe, if enough Krathians meet enough humans, We can figure out how to stop killing each other." Vextara stood motionless for 3 long seconds. Then the helmet went back on with a hiss, and the fearsome warrior returned. "Follow me, Danny Carter. I know a faster route." They ran through corridors filled with smoke and sparking cables. Vextara moved with surprising speed despite the heavy armor, and Danny had to push himself to keep up. The ship shuddered constantly now, and twice they had to detour around sections that had collapsed entirely. "Left here," Vextara commanded, shouldering through a jammed door. Beyond it, a vertical shaft dropped away into darkness. We climbed down 3 levels. "No ladder?" Danny asked, looking at the smooth walls. Vextara's armored hand shot out, gripping Danny's shoulder with crushing force. "Hold on!" Before Danny could protest, they dropped. His stomach lurched as they fell through the shaft, but Vextara's armor somehow controlled their descent. Magnetic fields, maybe, or some technology Danny couldn't identify. They slowed at the 3rd level, and Vextara kicked open a maintenance hatch. The escape pod bay spread before them, a circular room with 20 pods arranged around the perimeter. Half of them showed red lights, damaged or already launched. The rest glowed amber, on standby. "You take Pod 7, Vextara said, pointing. "It has the best trajectory for your fleet's position." Danny turned to argue, but movement in the doorway behind them made him spin, weapon raised. 3 Krathian soldiers burst through, weapons charging. "War leader, step away from the human," the lead soldier commanded. "We detected your helmet removal. You have been compromised." Vextara moved to stand beside Danny instead, placing one armored body between him and the soldiers. "Stand down. I am evacuating a prisoner for interrogation." "Interrogation?" The soldier's weapon never wavered. "You removed your helmet in the presence of an enemy. Protocol demands immediate termination of both parties." "You know the law, war leader." Danny's mind raced. The law. They had a law about removing helmets, about showing their real faces. That explained so much about why the Krathians stayed in their armor, why no other species had ever described what they actually looked like. "Your protocol is outdated," Vextara said coldly. "This human has valuable intelligence about Earth's defensive capabilities. The Council will want him alive. The Council will want you executed for breach of security." The soldier took a step forward. Final warning. Step away or be designated hostile. Danny felt Vextara tense beside him. The math was simple and brutal. 3 fully armored Krathian warriors against 1, and a human with a nearly dead weapon charge. They'd both be cut down in seconds. "Pod 7, you said?" Danny asked quietly. "Yes, the blue one. Cool. Thanks for the specifics." Danny's hand moved to his belt, where he'd clipped a thermal grenade taken from a dead Krathian 3 corridors back. He'd been saving it for a last resort. This qualified. He armed it and threw in one smooth motion, diving toward Vextara. The warrior's instincts were faster, wrapping armored arms around Danny and turning away from the blast. The grenade detonated in midair, and the concussion wave hit them like a physical wall. They tumbled across the deck, slamming into a pod's base. Danny's ears rang, and he couldn't hear anything except a high-pitched whine. But he could see the 3 soldiers on the ground, their armor smoking. Not dead, probably, but stunned. Vextara pulled Danny upright, and they staggered toward Pod 7. The ship tilted sharply to the right, and alarms screamed everywhere at once. Red emergency lights strobed, making everything look like a nightmare. "Get in," Vextara ordered, hitting the pod's access panel. The door hissed open, revealing the cramped interior. "What about you?" Danny asked, though he already knew the answer. I stay. I am war leader. My duty is to this ship and crew until the end. That's stupid. They just tried to kill you. I broke it. Vexthara's helmet turned toward the soldiers, who were starting to move again. I broke it willingly. Now go. Danny Carter, tell your people what you learned here. Tell them that Krathians can be reasoned with. That beneath the armor, we are not monsters. Danny grabbed Vexthara's arm, though his hand barely wrapped around the armored forearm. Come with me. Request asylum. Earth would grant it to someone with your knowledge and become a traitor to my people? No. Vexthara gently removed Danny's hand. But perhaps I can be something else. A bridge, a voice for peace when this war finally ends. If I survive, if I can convince the Council that humanity is worth understanding rather than conquering, then this breach of protocol will have meaning. The ship groaned, a deep sound that resonated through the hull. Something massive gave way somewhere below, and the deck lurched sickeningly. You have 30 seconds, Vexthara said, shoving Danny toward the pod. Maybe less. Danny climbed in but held the door open. If you make it out, look for me. Danny Carter, 3rd Recon. I'll vouch for you. Tell them what happened here. If. Vexthara's helmet reflected the red emergency lights, making it impossible to read any expression. Goodbye, human. You fight well for such a fragile species. You're not so scary without the helmet, Danny shot back, then sealed the pod door. The launch sequence activated automatically. Through the small viewport, Danny watched Vexthara turn to face the recovering soldiers. The war leader stood perfectly still, weapon lowered, as the 3 warriors struggled to their feet. Then the pod fired, and Danny was crushed back into the seat as acceleration slammed him sideways. He caught one last glimpse of the Krathian cruiser, its hull split open in a dozen places, atmosphere venting in brilliant plumes. Then his pod rotated, and Earth's fleet filled the viewport. Dozens of ships in defensive formation, weapons hot, waiting. Danny activated the emergency beacon and settled in for the ride. He had a story to tell, one that might change everything. The recovery team pulled his pod aboard the destroyer Valiant 16 minutes later. Danny stumbled out, legs shaking from adrenaline crash, and found himself surrounded by armed Marines. Their weapons weren't pointed at him, but they weren't exactly relaxed either. Lieutenant Carter, a woman in commander's insignia, stepped forward. I'm Kate Sullivan, intelligence officer. We need to debrief you immediately. The cruiser, Danny said, looking back through the hangar bay opening. The Krathian ship was a distant fireball now, breaking apart as it fell into the planet's gravity well. Did anyone else make it off? Negative. We tracked 12 escape pods launching before yours, but all were destroyed by the ship's automated systems. Looked like an internal purge protocol. Sullivan gestured toward the exit. Come with me, Lieutenant. We have questions. The debriefing room was cold and sterile, just a metal table and uncomfortable chairs. Danny had been through enough interrogations to recognize the setup. They thought he might be compromised. Fair enough. He'd spent 2 hours on an enemy vessel and emerged alive. That made anyone suspicious. Start from the beginning, Sullivan said, activating a recording device. Your scout ship encountered the cruiser at 0600 hours. Walk me through everything that happened. Danny told them. The ambush. The destruction of his vessel. Fighting through the ship. And then he got to the cargo bay, to Vexthara, to the moment when the helmet came off. Sullivan stopped him. Wait, the Krathian removed its helmet willingly? Yeah? Said I'd earned it or something. Respect, maybe. And you saw its face clearly? Could you describe it? Danny described what he'd seen. The delicate features, the shifting eyes. The vulnerable appearance that contrasted so sharply with the fearsome armor. Sullivan's expression grew more intense with every detail. "This is unprecedented," she said quietly. "In 30 years of contact with the Cratian Empire, we've never seen their actual faces. Every species we've interviewed says the same thing. The armor never comes off. They don't remove helmets, even for diplomatic functions. Well, this one did. And then its own soldiers tried to kill it for doing so." Danny leaned back in his chair. "They have some kind of protocol. Showing their face to an enemy means both parties get terminated." Sullivan exchanged glances with another officer Danny hadn't noticed in the corner. The man stepped forward, insignia marking him as a captain. "Lieutenant Carter, I'm Andrew Logan, Tactical Division. What you're describing changes our entire understanding of Krathian psychology." He pulled up a holographic display showing ship formations and battle data. "We've been fighting them for 2 years. We've lost 17 colonies, 43 warships, and approximately 200,000 personnel. And in all that time, we've learned almost nothing about them as a species. Just their tactics, their weapons, their armor, because they don't want you to see them as people," Danny said, suddenly understanding. "The armor isn't just protection. It's a psychological weapon. They look invincible, unstoppable. Every species they conquer sees only the armor, only the weapon, not the vulnerable being inside." "Exactly." Logan pulled up more data. "But here's where it gets interesting. In the last 6 months, we've noticed a change in Krathian behavior. They're not pressing their advantages as aggressively. They're accepting negotiated withdrawals instead of total destruction. Some of our analysts think they're preparing for a larger offensive. Others think they're exhausted, overextended. Or maybe they're looking for a way out," Danny said. "Vextara asked me how humans keep fighting, why we don't give up." The question seemed genuine, like it really didn't understand. Sullivan leaned forward. "What did you tell it? The truth, that we share everything. Every defeat teaches us. Every soldier who dies leaves behind data that makes the next soldier better." Danny met her eyes, and I think that terrified it. Because the Krathians don't do that. They're warriors. They have protocols, traditions, ways of fighting that probably go back centuries. But we're changing every day. Evolving. Getting better at killing them. The room fell silent. Logan manipulated the holographic display, pulling up casualty reports. "You might be right. Look at these numbers. First year of the war, we lost 90 ships. Second year, 43. Each engagement, our survival rate improves. Our kill ratio increases. At this rate, within another year, we'll be evenly matched. And the year after that, we'll be winning," Sullivan finished. "Which means the Krathians know they're on a clock. Either they finish us now, or they lose their momentum." Danny thought about Vextara standing in that escape pod bay, refusing to leave. The war leader had talked about being a bridge, about convincing the council that humanity was worth understanding. That sounded like someone who saw the writing on the wall, someone who knew the war was becoming unsustainable. "I need to send a message," Danny said suddenly, "to the Krathian fleet, to Vextara specifically, if it survived." "Absolutely not," Logan said immediately. "You're not cleared for diplomatic contact. And besides, that cruiser was destroyed. All hands lost. You said 12 pods launched before mine. Maybe one made it past the automated systems. Maybe Vextara found a way." Danny stood, pacing the small room. "That warrior showed me its face, knowing it would probably die for doing so. It broke its people's most fundamental protocol because it thought understanding was more important than law. We owe it a chance." Sullivan studied him for a long moment. "You like this alien, Lieutenant? This enemy who's been killing your comrades for 2 years?" "I respect it," Danny corrected. "And, yeah, maybe I like it too. Because for the first time since this war started, I met a Krathian who wanted to talk instead of fight, who asked questions instead of just shooting. If there are more like Vexthara, maybe we can end this before it gets worse." Logan and Sullivan exchanged another look. Something unspoken passed between them, and Sullivan nodded slightly. "There might be a way," Logan said carefully. 3 days ago, we intercepted a Krathian transmission. Heavily encrypted, but our people broke it. It was a request for emergency extraction sent from a life pod near the debris field where you fought. Single occupant. The pod's signature matched Krathian command personnel. Danny's heart raced. Vexthara survived. We don't know that for certain. But yes, potentially. Logan pulled up new data showing the pod's trajectory. The pod drifted for 16 hours before a Krathian stealth ship retrieved it. Then silence. No more transmissions. But our long-range sensors tracked that stealth ship. It didn't return to the Krathian fleet. It went somewhere else entirely. Where? Neutral station, Zephyros 7, on the border between human and Krathian space. It's a trading hub, supposedly outside both our jurisdictions. Sullivan's expression was carefully neutral. Interesting place for a Krathian war leader to visit, don't you think? Danny understood immediately. You want me to go there? Make contact. Officially, we're confining you to base for psychological evaluation after your ordeal, Logan said. Unofficially, a transport leaves for Zephyros 7 in 4 hours. You'd be traveling as a civilian contractor, no military identification. If the Krathians grab you, we'll deny everything. And if Vexthara is really there, if it wants to talk, then you talk, Sullivan said simply. You're the only human who's seen their face, who knows what they really look like beneath the armor. That gives you something no diplomat or general has. A connection. Use it. 2 days later, Danny walked through the crowded corridors of Zephyros 7. The station was a maze of different architectural styles, built and rebuilt by a dozen species over centuries. Here, humans rubbed shoulders with 6-armed Gorath merchants and floating luminari. And there, keeping to the shadows, were the Krathians. Danny spotted 4 of them, all in full armor, standing near a docking bay entrance. They watched the crowds with weapons ready, looking exactly as dangerous as their reputation suggested. But now Danny knew what lay beneath that armor. The knowledge changed everything. He approached slowly, hands visible and empty. The Krathians tensed, weapons rising slightly. I'm looking for war leader Vexthara, Danny said clearly, letting his translator carry the words. My name is Danny Carter. We met 3 days ago during the battle. The Krathians didn't move. For a long moment, Danny thought they might just shoot him where he stood. Then one of them turned and spoke into a communication device. Follow, the warrior commanded, gesturing with its weapon. They led him through service corridors and maintenance shafts, taking routes designed to avoid surveillance. Finally, they reached a small chamber deep in the station's industrial section. The door opened, and Vexthara stood inside. The armor was different this time. Lighter, less aggressive, not combat gear but something else. Travel armor, maybe. And the helmet was already off. Danny Carter, Vexthara said, those shifting eyes cycling through surprised colors. You found me. You wanted me to. Danny stepped inside, and the door sealed behind him. Otherwise, you wouldn't have sent that transmission where we could intercept it. Clever. Vexthara gestured to a seat. Yes, I hoped you would understand. I hoped your people would allow you to come. They're hoping I can convince you to help end this war. And I am hoping you can help me convince my people that humans are not the enemy they believe. Vexthara sat across from him, and without the helmet, the alien looked almost human in posture and expression. I have been summoned before the council. They wish to execute me for my breach of protocol. But I have argued for a different path. I have told them what I learned from you. About humans sharing information, about us learning from defeats, about humans being worthy of understanding instead of conquest. Vextara's eyes settled into a deep blue. The council is divided. Some want to press the war to crush humanity before you become too strong. Others recognize the cost. We have lost ships too, warriors, resources. And for what? To add one more species to an empire that stretches too thin already? Danny leaned forward. What do you need from me? Proof that humans can be trusted. That we can build something better than endless war. Vexthara produced a data chip, setting it on the table between them. This contains schematics for our armor. Not the weapons, not the shields, but the life support systems. The medical technology that keeps wounded warriors alive. Technology that could save human lives. Why would you give us that? Because I am offering a trade. Our medical technology for yours. Your rapid adaptability, your learning systems against our established knowledge. Let our scientists work with your scientists. Let our warriors train with your soldiers. Not as enemies preparing to fight, but as allies learning from each other. Danny picked up the chip, feeling its weight. This was worth more than a dozen military victories. This was the foundation for peace. I'll take this to my superiors, he said. I'll tell them what you're proposing. But Vexthara, you need to know something. Humans are stubborn. We don't trust easily. Especially not people who've been killing us for 2 years. I know. Vexthara stood, replacing the helmet. The fearsome warrior returned, but Danny could still see the vulnerable being beneath. That is why I am counting on you to be my voice. To tell them that beneath the armor, we are not monsters. We are simply people who made war because we knew nothing else. Now I want to learn something different. Danny stood as well, extending his hand. Vexthara looked at it for a moment, then reached out. The armored glove engulfed Danny's hand completely, but the grip was gentle. We'll figure this out, Danny said. Humans are good at improvising, remember? And right now, peace sounds like the best improvisation we could manage. Then let us begin. Vexthara said. Before more warriors on both sides die for a war neither of us needs to fight. Danny left the chamber carrying hope in the form of a data chip and the memory of an alien face that looked far more human than he'd ever expected. Behind him, Vexthara stood alone, helmet off again, staring at nothing and everything. Two warriors from different worlds, choosing understanding over conflict. It wasn't much, but it was a start.